outside Virginia Tech, the location of the deadliest shooting in U.S. history. 33 dead, 29 wounded, 15 still in the hospital tonight.
We also want to talk about the other lives lost, those families shattered by this horrific attack, while investigators are looking into
high school gunfire inside the school.
17 people killed in a mass shooting at a Florida high school. See, people, most of them kids.
Every time a school shooting happens, the same debate begins. More security, more police officers, more metal detectors, more gun laws. And while all of these discussions matter, I can't help but wonder, what if we're asking the wrong question? What if the most important intervention doesn't start at the school entrance? What if it starts months, or even years, before an attack ever takes place? I'm not a politician, I'm not a psychologist, and I'm not a security expert. I'm simply someone who spent a lot of time thinking about a question that affects millions of students, parents, and teachers. If many attackers show warning signs long before they commit violence,
when you look at the type of items he was posting, open for anyone to see on Instagram, it raises a lot of questions for police as to why no one reported him. And the sheriff sort of stressed this tonight.
why do we so often fail to act before it's too late? Today, I want to share an idea. It's not a perfect solution. No single solution exists. But I believe it could help reduce the number of school shootings and perhaps save lives. So let's talk about it. For years, Americans have debated how to stop school shootings. Some argue for stricter gun laws. Others argue for more armed security, metal detectors, or reinforced school entrances. But what if one of the most effective solutions isn't found in a law book or a security checkpoint? What if it starts with something much simpler? A conversation. According to investigations into school attacks, many perpetrators showed warning signs long before they acted.
The sort of the early warning system, the see something, say something. This kid was flashing red. There were neon signs over his left shoulder.
They talked about violence, expressed hopelessness, isolated themselves, or displayed alarming behavior online. In many cases, someone noticed. A friend, a classmate, a teacher. The tragedy is that noticing a warning sign and knowing what to do about it are two very different things. Imagine you're 14 years old. A friend suddenly starts posting disturbing messages online. They talk about revenge.
It's gonna be a big event.
They seem angry at the world. Maybe they even hint at bringing a weapon to school. What do you do? Do you confront them yourself? Do you tell a teacher? Or do you stay silent because you're afraid of being wrong? This is why I believe every student should have access to a nationwide support network, which I would call Dial and Smile. A free 24-hour hotline and chat service available to every student in the country. And here's the important parts. First, it must be completely confidential and anonymous, so that no one is afraid to reach out for help. Then there's the second important point. This wouldn't just be a hotline for potential acts of violence. It would be a hotline for life. A place where students could talk about anything: bullying, loneliness, depression, family problems, anxiety, suicidal thoughts, a painful breakup, fear about the future, or concerns about a friend. No problem would be considered too small, because what may seem like a small problem to an adult can feel overwhelming to a teenager. The purpose isn't to identify future attackers. The purpose is to help young people before they reach a breaking point. Most students who call would never become violent. Most students who struggle are not dangerous. But every young person deserves someone who will listen. And when serious warning signs do appear, trained counselors can step in early, connect people with help, and alert the appropriate authorities when necessary. Not every conversation will save a life, but some will. And if a simple phone call can prevent even one tragedy, then it is a solution worth building. But even the best hotline has one limitation. It can only help the people who decide to call. What about the student who never reaches out? What about the person who suffers in silence? Or the student who isn't struggling themselves but notices that someone else might be? This is where the second layer of protection comes in. Imagine a student notices something deeply concerning. A classmate talks about violence. Someone posts threats online. A friend suddenly starts talking about suicide. Or maybe there is severe bullying taking place that nobody seems to be addressing. Most students want to do the right thing. The problem is that they often don't know how. They're afraid of overreacting, afraid of getting someone into trouble, afraid of becoming a target themselves. That's why I believe every student should have access to a simple, secure reporting app, a tool that allows concerns to be reported anonymously and directed to trained professionals who can evaluate the situation. Not every report would involve law enforcement. Not every report would trigger an investigation. Sometimes the right response is simply reaching out to a struggling student and offering support. At the same time, credibility matters. A system only works if people trust it. That's why intentionally false reports should carry consequences, not because mistakes deserve punishment, but because malicious misuse can undermine the entire system. Good faith reports should always be protected. Deliberate abuse should not. The goal is not surveillance. The goal is responsibility. Giving young people a safe way to speak up when something feels wrong. Because throughout history, many tragedies were not prevented because nobody noticed. They weren't prevented because the people who noticed didn't know what to do next. And that leads to a larger question. Instead of 50 separate systems, why not build one strong network that every community can rely on? This brings us to what I believe is the backbone of the entire proposal. Today, school safety programs vary dramatically across the United States. Some states have well-developed reporting systems. Others rely on local initiatives. Some schools have access to resources that others simply don't. As a result, a student's ability to get help can depend heavily on where they happen to live. I don't believe protecting children should be a geographic lottery. Whether a student lives in New York, Texas, Alaska, Puerto Rico, Guam, or a small rural town, they should have access to the same basic safety infrastructure. That's why I propose what I would call the nationwide safety network. Not a giant federal database, not a centralized surveillance system, but a resilient national framework that connects existing resources while allowing states to maintain control over their own operations. Each state could operate its own secure systems, trained response teams, and local support services while remaining connected through a common national platform. The federal government would provide standards, funding, cybersecurity support, and oversight. States would continue making the decisions that affect their communities. National coordination without national micromanagement. Because the strongest systems are rarely those that centralize all power. They're the systems that allow people to work together. But technology alone isn't enough, because many attackers are not only angry, they're often isolated, humiliated, rejected, disconnected from the people around them. Which raises another question. What if preventing violence starts not with technology, but with teaching young people how to treat each other? When people discuss school shootings, the conversation usually focuses on what happens on the day of the attack. But by the time an attack begins, countless opportunities to intervene have already been missed. Most acts of violence don't emerge from nowhere. They are often the final chapter of a much longer story. A story that may involve loneliness, humiliation, bullying, social exclusion, or the feeling that nobody cares whether you exist at all. Of course, millions of young people experience these struggles and never become violent. But if we want to understand why some individuals reach a breaking point, we cannot ignore the role these experiences often play. That's why I believe schools should invest far more in empathy, conflict resolution, and anti-bullying. Not as a side project, not as a one-week campaign, but as a core part of education itself. Because education isn't only about mathematics, science, or history. It's also about learning how to live alongside other people. How to disagree without hatred. How to recognize suffering in someone else. How to treat others with dignity, even when they're different from us. Will this eliminate violence? No. But creating stronger communities reduces the number of people who fall through the cracks. And sometimes, preventing a tragedy begins with something as simple as making sure a young person feels seen. But even the strongest school culture cannot answer every question. Because sooner or later, we must address one of the most difficult parts of this discussion. Access to firearms. Many school shootings involve firearms, which means any serious conversation about prevention eventually has to address the question of access. The proposal I'm discussing today is not about eliminating the Second Amendment. It is not about confiscating firearms from responsible citizens, and it is not about treating lawful gun owners as criminals. The principle is simple. Rights and responsibilities should go hand in hand. Measures such as secure storage, preventing unauthorized access, and ensuring that firearms remain in the hands of responsible adults are not attacks on freedom. They are protections for life. Because when a child gains access to a weapon that should never have been available to them, everyone loses.
Stephen Curanow, 14. Corey DePuter, 17. Kelly Fleming, 16.
The goal is not to punish lawful citizens. The goal is to reduce opportunities for preventable tragedies, because protecting constitutional rights and protecting human lives should never be viewed as opposing objectives. A strong society should be capable of doing both. But even if access to firearms is addressed responsibly, there is still another challenge. What happens when someone manages to bring a weapon onto school grounds anyway? Can technology help identify a threat before the first shot is ever fired? For many people, the idea of surveillance in schools immediately raises concerns. And honestly, that's understandable. Privacy matters. Freedom matters. That's exactly why any discussion about security technology must begin with clear limits. The goal should never be to monitor students' daily lives. The goal is much simpler. Identify an immediate threat before innocent people get hurt. Today, artificial intelligence is capable of recognizing specific objects with remarkable accuracy, including firearms. Imagine a system designed with one purpose only: detecting visible weapons in sensitive locations such as schools. Not identifying faces, not tracking students, not building personal profiles. Simply recognizing the presence of an object that could represent an immediate danger. If a firearm is detected, trained staff could be alerted within seconds. School administrators could verify the situation. Law enforcement could be contacted if necessary. Technology should serve people. People should never serve technology. AI-based weapon detection is not a magic solution, just like hotlines are not a magic solution. Reporting systems are not a magic solution. Empathy programs are not a magic solution. Responsible firearm policies are not a magic solution. But together, each layer reduces risk. Each layer creates another opportunity to intervene. Each layer makes tragedy less likely. But before we finish, one final question remains. How much would all of this cost? Probably several billion dollars. But according to economic analyses, gun violence already costs the United States an estimated $557 billion every year through healthcare, law enforcement, lost productivity, and other long-term social costs. In other words, doing nothing isn't free. No system will prevent every tragedy. But if a relatively small investment can reduce even a fraction of these incidents, the return would be measured not only in dollars, but in lives. And that's an investment worth making. So let's quickly recap. This proposal is built around 8 ideas. First, a nationwide student support hotline called Dial and Smile. Second, an anonymous reporting system that allows students to speak up safely. Third, a nationwide safety network connecting existing resources and support services. Fourth, stronger anti-bullying and empathy programs. Fifth, responsible firearm access and secure storage. Sixth, AI-based weapon detection with strong privacy protections. Seventh, a focus on prevention, support, and community rather than division. And finally, investing in prevention before tragedy occurs. None of these ideas alone will solve the problem. But together, they create multiple opportunities to help people before a crisis becomes a tragedy. If you agree with some of these ideas, disagree with others, or have proposals of your own, I'd genuinely like to hear them. Which part of this proposal do you think would be the most effective? And which part would never work? Let me know in the comments. Because difficult problems deserve thoughtful discussions. And thoughtful discussions are where better solutions begin.